I want to thank you all for joining us today for our vision boarding event. My name is Nick Minix. I am an Assistant Director for Regional Initiatives for Alumni Relations. I attended one of Jamie's vision boarding events for Creative Mornings in January, and I loved so much that I was creating my vision board in real time with people from all around the globe, and I wanted University of Richmond alumni to be able to enjoy that experience as well. So I'm going to let Jamie introduce herself in just a moment, but before I do, and as folks are coming in, I just want to remind everyone that today's session is being recorded. We'll make the recording available on the University of Richmond's Alumni Relations YouTube channel as soon as we can. If your situation allows for it, we do encourage you to be on camera. And to cut down on background noises, we just ask that you stay on mute unless you're actively speaking. And we do encourage you to participate with the group via the chat feature, or since it's a small group of us, if you want to come off mute and ask questions, that's fine as well. So right with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Jamie take it away.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to be here. I am in Canada. I am in Vancouver on the West Coast, and it's rainy here, as always. And yeah, I'm really excited to be here, and I love a good vision board. So I'm pretty thrilled that you all are here. We're going to do it. It's power vision boarding, but I have a whole method to the madness, and I will go through it with you. So I'll get this started because I say more. So I'm an artist. This is my studio out of my home, and I draw quite a bit, and I draw black and white typically is what I do. Like the mural behind me is in gray, my big leap into color. So I make art. I run a community called Thrive Art Studio of female artists. So in the time of making art and running my business, I was told to make a business plan. And I think business plans are great, but I'm a visual person. And I went to a vision boarding workshop, goal setting, and I was like, this is much more up my alley. So my vision boards weren't allowed to be, part of any grant applications or any business applications. But for me, I ended up doing a vision board. I've done one for the last 7 years every year. And I just love having them and having sort of my goals in a visual place. So why do they work? There's they kind of have a wooey reputation and sort of this idea of magical, but actually it's quite simple. And that is visualization is a very powerful tool that we can do with our minds. So if we can state goals, we can write them down, we can see them, they're much more, they're more likely to come true. And that's because we are going to make them happen in our lives. So I like to use the example on if you are shopping and you see a sweater that you love and it's too expensive, you're like, I'm not doing it. And then you go out into the world and you see that sweater everywhere. All of a sudden you're like, everyone has this and I don't. The sweater was always there. It's just that now, because you desire it, because it's something that is in your lens, you see it, you want it, you're going to make it happen. So we want to do that in all aspects of our life. We want to put intention there and we want to focus on them daily. And the fun part of what we're going to do today is we're going to do it in one sitting. So I have found that I've met people that have said, I've started vision boards and then I got overwhelmed and I just put it away. It's half done. It's sitting in my basement. And today I have it all timed out. And so it's going to feel like power vision boarding. But at the end of this hour, you're going to have your vision board and it's going to feel great. So what we're looking to create today is we don't want something that looks like a perfect Pinterest board. We don't want this all to be goals that we're pushing ourselves constantly. We want it to feel like us. We want it to have feeling. We want it to have inspiration and encouragement, because that is something we're going to want to actually put on our walls and not, hide under our beds secretly because we're embarrassed of all the things we want. We're going to make this really fun and it's going to be really beautiful. And I always have mine around. So I want that same for you. So we're going to take a few minutes. It's really easy when you're flipping through magazines to be like, oh, this beautiful home. That's so me. And you put it on, but really, are you connected to it? We need to actually go back and go from the beginning. So we're going to think about different areas of our life. So we're going to think of our life split up into 8 categories. And you can add to this or take one out if it doesn't, if you don't feel like that's something you want to focus on. But there's personal growth, health, fun recreation, romance, career or school, money, family, friends. And what I want you to look at that list and just on in your journal or scrap piece of paper there, I want you to think about one area of this list of 8 that is going really well. You've put time into it, you've really cultivated this part of your life. And what area is that? And what's one thing that you want to keep doing to keep that going well for you? The second question is what area of your life you want to improve? And what are 2 things you could do to make that happen? So that's 2 and 3 are the same question. I want you to pick 2 different areas and kind of think about ways you can improve. What I have found from people is we tend to feel the most proud of areas that we're participating in, that we're working on, even if we're not, I like to use the example of someone who has $1 million in the bank. If their goal was to have $2 million and you ask them if they feel satisfied with their financial situation, they would say no. Whereas someone who's like, my goal is to have $1,000 in the bank this year, and every the month I'm making a deposit of $100, they'd be like, yeah, I'm working towards my goal. So it really doesn't matter the amount. It doesn't matter what the goal is. It's how we're working towards it. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to set a timer. You're going to look at one area that's going well, and then 2 areas to write goals around. Okay? Any questions you have for me, you can pop in the chat, or if you want to unmute, that's fine too. Your timer starts now. I got a really great question that I'm just going to share the answer with the whole group. So the question is, I mentioned that I do this often in January, is to do a kind of a vision of the year, but I think you can do a vision board for any time, and you can kind of set the parameters around that. I used to be a high school teacher, so for me, I feel like September is almost like a new year. So sometimes I think about the fall, and I might do a little vision board just about my fall. Sometimes I might do it in like, oh, what's my 5-year plan? So you kind of set the parameters, but the thing with this exercise is we want to think about what's happening now. And really it's about 6 months to a year out, is like, depends on your goals, but really you set those parameters. All right, I'm gonna wrap us up. I have a silly 1-year-old puppy who thinks that she guards our window to the alley. So if you hear a bark, she won't bark much. It's just her new thing. It's really fun. Um, so again, you don't have to fill this with goals by any means, but what I love about kind of setting our intentions for the year, it kind of, or the time frame you want, it kind of helps us when we're looking through the magazines, right? Because we don't want this just to be like this perfect life that we're trying to create. It's our life. So the first thing we're going to do, and we have 10 minutes for this, is you're going to flip through your magazines, or if you're using the internet to find images, that's totally fine too. You're going to start flipping through the interwebs, and we're going to rip out or collect images, the one as sort of over the next 10 minutes. You're not going to cut, you're not going to glue. All you're going to do is take the paper and rip them out. You're not going to overthink. We want at least 10 images. I'll give you a couple little tips here. So we're looking for some words. So we want this board to be inspirational. So anything that you feel really connected to. Sometimes I love when I have ideas of the images I'm looking for, and then I start this process and I find even better things that I couldn't imagine. So anything that feels fun, pull out. Another thing we really want to find are large areas of patterns or colors that would make good backgrounds. So we want to put down sort of these background pieces, and then we're going to have little bits put on top. So anything that feels fun, grab that. If you see anything with geometric shapes like clocks or circles or triangles, they're fun shapes because it just starts to look really nice. So as you're flipping through, think about that kind of stuff. The other thing that I love doing is sometimes when we have goals, we need something specific to represent that for us. So this is where we can use personal symbols to really make our board really personal, and also make it so that we can kind of find the things that are meaningful to us. So there's a picture here of me pointing to a fig tree on my board. And it wasn't that I wanted to go buy a fig tree. I think they're beautiful. But for me, it represented about growing a family. So it represented about being in our living room. We ended up getting a dog. And so it really was about this idea of like growth together. But again, if someone's on my board, they see a tree and it's nice, but that was actually like a really meaningful piece of my puzzle. So as you're flipping through, if you see something, you can think, how does this connect to sort of the areas in my life I'm thinking about? So we are going to take, I think we only have 10 minutes for this, Nick. I feel like, do we have 15? I think 15. And you're gonna rip out images, make a big pile. You're not touching scissors, you're not touching glue. And if you're online, pull these images. You're gonna look for background shapes, words, geometric shapes, personal symbols. And we wanna look at the writing we just did. Okay, so we're gonna set the timer. And Nick, it has music for us, which is really nice. It just adds to the whole experience. If you have questions, you can unmute, or of course, just use the chat. I'm here on it, okay? And enjoy it. This is fun. It's a Tuesday. We're making vision boards. All right. I find it hard doing this if I'm a little bit hungry, which I didn't realize until I started looking at all this amazing food. So that is what I'm doing after our session, eating something, eating something. So our next part is actually cutting and placing. But the biggest rule here is we're not gluing. So you want to get out your board, whichever you're going to glue your pieces on. So my size is usually like half a Bristol board. It can be smaller, it can be bigger. And honestly, it's just whatever you have, just that it's a little thicker. The thing is, if you make it too huge, I see that people tend to not put them up because they take up so much real estate. It's kind of like, where are you going to put it? So making it a nice size that you feel comfortable having it somewhere is really important. The biggest thing here is we're not going to glue. We want to lay everything out because once we start gluing, we can't peel things away. And I have some tips for you for the gluing. So this is also a good time before you start laying everything down is to actually just write the date. So I wrote March 2022. And it's just kind of nice to have them dated because you think you'll remember because it's the most important thing to you right now. And then it's amazing how life goes by and you're like, oh, what a weird time in my life, or what a great time in my life. Who knows? So for cutting out our images, we have our pile. And I really encourage you to take time to cut out any words nicely. So what I find is that visually our eyes go to the words because our brain wants to make meaning as quickly as possible. So if you have, funny edges or you just haven't taken the time to make it look nice, it's typically what we go to first. We want these to look great because that means we'll put them up. We're more likely to have them somewhere we can see them. Tip number 2 is that some things you want to cut out really close. So I have this beautiful little marigold I found, and I took the time to cut into all the little details, and it really makes it stand out on the board. And then I have other things that are much more loosely cut out. So I have this like house with vines, and the vines has a ton of blue space around it. So kind of mixing up how you're cutting things out. The other thing is using those geometric shapes. You can also cut things, into a circle that maybe isn't a perfect shape like that, but cut it out so it kind of takes up, creates different shapes on your board. And when we're planning, so first we're going to cut things out. Don't cut anything as you look at it, you're like, I don't care about that. Put it aside. We don't have time. We only have 15 minutes. So we want to cut out things. And then we're going to start to place. And we're going to place our larger background images down first. So that's going to help us sort of fill up space. And then on top of that, we're going to put down our other little images. If you have something that this year you're really focused on, you could put that right in the middle. And some people like to have like different areas of their life sort of clumped together. So for example, in this tip number 2, I have this big tulip in the middle. For me, that represented travel and sort of growing that year. So that was right there in the middle. The other thing we want to do is we want to put down images, we want to tuck other images behind and sort of make them like this layered collage, okay? So that's what we're going to be spending time on. It's going to feel very fast. This time will go quickly, but we want to get this down because you would always add. The worst thing is to like stop basically during this step of the process. We need to get our boards together. So we have 15 minutes. You're going to cut things out really nicely and you're starting to lay them out on your board, starting with your background and your pieces on top. All right, I'm going to set the timer and you're welcome to use the chat. I'm here. And yes, good luck. Power vision boarding. We got this. All right. Felt like that flew by. The concentration level on everyone's faces. You're all doing it. It's amazing. So I'm going to wrap us up. And again, we chose to do this in the evening so that hopefully you can just keep on going, because our last step is to glue. I did want to mention like ways to use the board from now on. And a good one is to take a picture of it and put it on your screensaver on your phone or your computer. Also to have it up somewhere is amazing. I think the mantras are really important. The more we say those out loud, the more they start to become real in our daily lives. And just remembering to take daily steps. You know, our big goals often can feel very far away, but it takes that little by little. And you can always add to the board. Sometimes I put it on a pin board and I'll add another thing as the year goes. And as you look back, you will see that things started to happen, and just to make sure that you celebrate those. So that is sort of how to keep it with us throughout the day, our daily life. For gluing, a couple tips, because once you've laid it all out, it feels so beautiful, and it can feel very upsetting to then take it apart to glue it. So one thing to do is to take a picture of how it looks set up. So you've placed it down, and now take a picture, and because you got to move everything. Another really good thing is we have these bigger background pieces. So glue any small items you can to a bigger piece, because then you only have to lift sections of it to glue it down. So I find that one really, really helpful. And I know with tucking images and making things look beautiful, it can feel hard, but it will look great. I promise you, even if it looks a little different. So your job now, your homework, is to glue this down, and I would love to see your board. So I'm on Instagram at Jamie Smith Studio. I run Skillshare classes. I do live teaching just like this. So please follow along and send me a picture of your board. Also, Richmond alumni have an Instagram account, and they have a hashtag, and you are alumni. So please use that, because it's really fun to have these workshops and then see actual projects. So Nick was awesome to invite me in, and we wanted it to be an hour so that you get a finished board at the end. So I want to see them. And Nick, that's all for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. And thank you all for joining us tonight. I hope that you enjoyed this session, and I would love to know if you'd like more sessions like this. Be sure to check us out. Like Jamie said, check out Jamie's website, and then check out the Alumni Relations website for more upcoming events. We do have some great virtual events coming up and some in person, especially with the Spiders going to the NCAA tournament. And also be sure to follow us on social media and tag us in your vision boards. Like Jamie said, I did link those for you, and they're also in your confirmation emails that you received tonight. And anyway, just reach out to me if you all want to see more like this, or if you like this. I'd love to have the feedback. And that's it for us. Go Spiders. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.